Good. How you doing? It was pretty low key. My wife was up in Door County with some friends celebrating my mother-in-law's retirement. So she brought back some apple pie and some actually some really nice bourbon. I got a hold on. Don't ask me why I keep this in my office, but I have my own little hatch hatch distilling. I had actually had a glass of it last night with my apple pie that she brought home. It was absolutely delicious. Fire in the fireplace. It was, it was mid 30s last night. It wasn't super cold, but it was chilly enough to have a fire and some apple pie and some bourbon. So it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. It takes it. It's got a different heat. No, they had the same thing that we had. That like it was like a couple of seconds of some real heavy snow, and that was about it. So it wasn't anything like it. Oh, yeah, yep, yep. That little nastiness there. So, how about your weekend? That was good. Nice. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. That's our baseball season. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Yeah, we are moving into the next section. Actually, I think that's a mistake there on slide number 3. I think it's actually part 3, not part 2. So apologize for that, but so okay, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I'll read that. Leaders are the ones who run headfirst into the unknown. They rush toward the danger. They put their own interests aside to protect us or to pull us into the future. Leaders would sooner sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours, and they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. This is what it means to be a leader. It means they choose to go first into danger, head first toward the unknown. And when we feel sure they will keep us safe, we will march behind them and work tirelessly to see their visions come to life and proudly call ourselves their followers. So yeah, today we're talking about the courage to do the right thing in reality, and it does touch kind of on that feeling side of things, getting away from the EDSO, the chemical talks, and how our bodies release different chemicals to make us think and feel and react differently. And now talking, on the personable side, and it was real interesting. I had somehow I caught on, it was on LinkedIn. It was a conversation that Richard Branson was having with Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've seen this. It happened like last week, and there's another guy on there. I don't know his name, but he was in like a full suit. Did you see that at all? Yeah, it was really interesting because it was just short. It was only 2 minutes long, but Richard Branson asked Simon Sinek if he could do one thing, if he had the power to do like one thing right now, what would it be? And he said that he would give people the power of reason right now because everybody is so I'm right and you're wrong, and we're divided because of it. We can't just see through that, the world is not black and white. It's actually a ton of shades of gray. And that's okay. It should be that way. And then I just, I sat there and I watched it. I'm like, God, here's like two guys, Richard Branson and Simon Sinek. And they're talking about, essentially what they're talking about is the politics that's going on right now that we just can't, nobody can seem to agree with anybody. We have all this crap going on, the Black Lives Matter, the Proud Boys, the right, the left. It's like, why are we so divided? It struck me. I don't know. It was just kind of an interesting discussion that they were having. I wish there was more to it. I haven't had time to research to see if there was more to it, but very, very interesting that he would say something like that he would actually give the power to people to actually agree with each other, or have the ability to be okay with somebody not agreeing with how you feel and how you think. And I think the world could use a lot of that right now. We're too opinionated, if you will, I think, strongly towards our sides. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I was actually reflecting last week on my leadership training that I did 2 years ago, and just paging through some things, some notes that I had, and that was one of the big things that I focused on myself, was listening to learn and not listening to reply, because we very, very much so. I think a lot of people are guilty of this. That you do listen to make the reply. You don't listen to learn. You listen to reply. And you'd be surprised how much you can actually learn from just shutting up and listening, and stop your brain from thinking, okay, he said this, what am I going to say? It's just stop it and just listen. And that was the big thing for me. And I remember going through that journey and doing some exercises on listening and effective listening. And that it really does change the way you think if you actually do some effective listening. So this is a short chapter. I think it was only like 4 or 5 pages, but and they give a good example in there of the amount, and this probably chimes well with you with your little bit of anxiety that you have when you fly. Talk about the amount of flights that go on in the United States per year, and just staggering how many. I got to find that statistic because it was actually kind of funny. I thought about you when I was reading this whole entire thing. I was like, God, this is Nate 101 right here. 9.8 million scheduled domestic and passenger flights in the United States. And that was a 2012 statistic. I mean, obviously now it's probably a little bit more reduced, but I would bet at one point in time we were probably peaking higher than 10 million. 815 million passengers each year entrust their lives with pilots, traffic controllers. That's staggering. I mean, to think, you know, how many accidents we've had. We have not had any. You know, so that's a pretty good track record. Not, you know, knock on wood, that doesn't change anytime soon, but you know, but that's pretty staggering. And you know, the example that they use in the book is there are times when pilots and air traffic controllers are forced to make a difficult decision. They're forced to make a choice, and that choice is ultimately a gut reaction or a feeling, because we have so many instruments that are put into place that help keep us under control and help keep us, you know, safe. You know, they use the example that airplanes go off when they're, I think, like 10,000 feet away from each other or something. There's a collision warning detector, and ultimately, in order to save, you know, the people in this airplane, they had to do a quick dive, which went against the technology, but was ultimately the right decision to make. So what we say there, you know, in that slide is we trust people. We don't trust rules. We don't trust technology. Rules and technologies are there. They're in place for a reason. You know, they help us. They assist us. They keep us under control. They keep us moving in the right direction. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, you don't trust a set of rules that were given to you. Ultimately, at some point in time in your life, you're probably going to have to break those rules in order to make the right decision. So, you know, really the big take-home message is, you know, people trust people. They don't trust the rules and the governances that are behind them. Ultimately, we have to figure out what's right for us, what's right for the group. And sometimes that means doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another great example. I think, you know, that's right, spot on. I mean, you have the lines painted on the roads to keep us under control. We obviously now with newer cars, we have the lane deterrence detection that straightens the car back out. But end of the day, a deer runs in front of your car, and you're faced with a decision. You know, where do you go? You're going to have to break the rules. You're going to have to break the technology in order to save the car, save people, you know, whatever you have going on there. So that's a great example. I didn't even think about that. That's a very good simplistic way of thinking about it. So. um, there's a good quote in here that I did like. It was in the last paragraph that I wanted to touch on. Very first sentence: if people are asked to work in a bad culture or in one where leaders do not relinquish control, then the odds of something bad happening go up. And think about that. I think that's a good quote. People will be more concerned about following the rules of fear of getting in trouble or losing their jobs than about what needs to be done. And when this happens, souls will be lost. It's a very insightful but very deep, very truthful, I think, way of thinking about how things are going in business. There's some places where it's this is the way we've been doing it for 1955, and why we're not going to change this. This is the rules. This is the way it's happening. Those people are more inept to react and think, I don't want to do anything wrong here because I'm going to get fired, or I'm not going to lose my job. But if you have a place of business that's open and free and has a good culture, very open to thought, I think you're setting yourself up for better successes than you are the other route. So that was my good takeaway, I think, from this chapter, was that last paragraph was really, really, I think, well written. Thought about that. I thought about how I've seen that happen many, many times over. It's very interesting. I've seen guys just be completely crippled over attendance policies on how we manufacture things, and then you have these aha moments that happen because somebody did break the rules, and somebody was like, hey, I know we've been doing it like this forever, but have you ever thought about doing it this way? Now, those that embrace that and bring that in I think are the ones that are going to be set up for great success. But those that are like, I don't care what you think. It's not your job to think. I didn't give you the right to think. Go back and do it the way that I told you to do it. That's where you're getting into that. Your souls will be lost, and that very, very well written souls will be lost. Yeah, when you become a soulless creature at work, all you are just a robot. You're a drone. You just come in and do your 9 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever you're working. You just come in and do it and get it done. And that's no way to live. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think back when I was a precaster, I used to deal a lot with DOTs, and DOTs are the worst. They follow those rules by the. And I'm sorry if anybody's paying attention that works for the DOT. My brother used to work for the DOT, and I works for the city of Waukesha. And I'm not sure that's much better, but anybody that holds a governance type office, your rules, you can't flow away from them at all. It's very important that you stay, because obviously the cities and the DOTs, they don't want a lawsuit on their hands. I will say that those rules were written they're conservative. They're conservative for a reason, and that's protection. Um, but I used to get into fights all the time because I was always a free thinker, and I would always, why does it have to be that way? It doesn't have to be that way. But you used to get an argument after argument. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed those arguments because I think they really help see people to understand how outdated some of those rules are. And I sat on a lot of the governing boards, ASTM, ACI, that would change rules, and those rule changing processes are, I mean, if you could sit on one and change 3 rules in your lifetime, you're doing good. That's how long it takes to change those damn rules. So, but that, like I said, I think they're there for a reason, but it's exactly what you said. You have to be a free thinker. I mean, you really do. You have to have free thoughts. Not saying that all your thoughts are going to be correct and they're going to be right. Sometimes the rules are going to govern. But if you're not thinking outside the box, then you're not progressing, and you're not progressing your company. And I think that's very important, is to have some time to do free thinking. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think that's right. I'll use a production example. Um, if I'm, you don't argue there. There's code books and there's code design factors for, say, the amount of steel rebar that should go into a bridge structure. I'm not going to spend time questioning that because I don't want my bridge structure to fall down. I'm certain that somebody along the way that's 10 times, 100 times smarter than I am calculated out the amount of steel it takes to make a bridge stand up. You're not going to spend time fighting that. But back a long time ago, the best concrete that anybody could make was 4,000 psi concrete. That was the strength of the concrete, and it stayed that way forever. And now most modern day precasters can hit 6,000 psi without even lifting a finger. It's just changing the advent of the mix design. However, the code has not changed for a lot of structures. A lot of times 4,000 is still the recognized strength, but there is more attributes that go along with 6,000 psi concrete versus 4,000. So that's one that you'd spend time, maybe in an argument about, breaking the code. If I'm not, giving you 6,000 psi concrete, there should be an advantage, a strategic advantage on my end versus just giving the 4,000 psi. So that was something that we fought a lot. It was, I always been quick to say that I can't even make 4,000 psi concrete. I just physically cannot make it anymore. It doesn't. You can't. I mean, precasters turn and burn concrete. That's what we do. We turn concrete over and over again. You can't do that with that weak of concrete. It doesn't work. So there's your production example. But again, it boils back down to that trust and having that trust in our leadership. I will say that, go back to the chemicals, oxytocin does release trust. That is the chemical that's acting there. And you want to feel trust. Again, it goes back to the culture. You want to feel that trust. I think a good leader really walks that line of following the rules and breaking the rules. That person knows when is the best time to break the rules and when is the best time to follow the rules. And I think that's what a good leader is all about, is understanding the situation, recognizing it, and reacting for the betterment of the group and not said person. Like we said at the beginning in reading, those that we trust that will follow into battle, will follow behind, and we'll probably call ourselves the followers. That's very true. So if we can trust the leaders, and we feel like the leaders are looking out for the best interest of us, then we're going to do whatever they say to do. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 Good point. I like that point of reciprocal trust. That's a very good point. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 You do. You definitely do. And it's like you said, it's that aha moment. Um, I did in baseball. I'll use an example of in first and third plays. Where you call out a play and the catcher overrules you. Just sheer gut reaction. Maybe the play was to snap the throw down to second, but he or she notices that the guy at third base is getting a little too aggressive of a lead, so instead of doing that, snaps over to third. Well, right decision or wrong decision, you entrust your catcher to do, their job, and that you do get that aha moment when they do make that connection, that play. And even if it was wrong, we always were in the habit as coaches. We always told our kids that we can never be mad at you for being aggressive. You can never be mad at somebody for being aggressive. And just that simple terminology, you'd be surprised how many kids actually tried stretching a single into a double, tried stealing, without taking the sign. Now, there's a difference between being foolish and aggressive, but, and our kids did a very good job of being aggressive and not foolish. And I think that's very true. You can never fault a person for being aggressive. You never can. It's going to work. It's not going to work, but you can never fault them for being aggressive. And that always, I think, brought a lot of confidence to the kids. Was just having that aggressive mindset, not like having the fear that they're gonna strike out. So they sit in the back of the box and they don't swing at anything, and they just look at ball after ball after ball. Just getting up there and taking some aggressive hacks and trying to stretch that single into a double. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Good things happen when you do that. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, that's a great analogy on the sales side. On the production side, I see your hockey analogy where the person is skating heads down for the goal. You every once in a while you get a guy or gal on the production floor that wants to be the production heavy carrier and don't look up for the team and just muscle through the day. Well, those are the ones that end up being burnt out, or the ones that get mad and get into a fight with somebody because they feel like they have to carry the load so much. You'd be surprised how long it goes if you just stop and say, "Hey, can you help me for a second?" Or, "Hey, I want to show you something." So, I mean, a lot of good analogies bouncing back and forth here between sports and production and sales. It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, you can definitely see that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, courage and trust are two words that you can spend many hours talking about. Snowmobile in the desert, which is we probably could have combined these two together, but it goes. That's okay. It goes along the same lines. It's the same. We're talking more about trust and more about the courage to do the right thing. So I think we're at the point now where we're kind of building some blocks up for some higher learning towards the tail end of the book here. So I think we're about halfway. Not quite halfway through. We're still chugging along. So same thing. Very similar next week. Yep, I'll be here Monday. Yep. Yep. There was. Yep. Definitely. Sounds good. We'll see you.